Bilinguals of Reddit, what's your they didn't know I spoke their language story? Late to the party, but once when I was younger I went to the park with my sister. We look very white and no one would know both of us to speak Mandarin fluently unless we told them. Some money must have fallen out of my sister's pocket and in Mandarin we hear a mother talking to her daughter and telling her not to let us know we dropped money so that they could pick it up after we left. Both of us turned around straight away and my sister picked up her money while both of us gave them dirty looks and we changed our conversation to Mandarin. The look of horror on both of their faces will forever be burned into my head. Visiting South Korea with my wife, a native of that country. I'm shaped like a lumberjack and have a big, red lumberjack beard to match. A group of Korean women in their 50s and 60s nearby were laughing and calling me a bear, which I found hilarious. So one of the older ones says, "Gum, bear," to me as she passes by, and I start laughing. She makes that face like, did he understand what just I said? So I raise my arms and make a playful growl at her. She is horrified and starts apologizing while her friends all cover their mouths and giggle, as Korean women customarily do. I love Korea. I worked as a part-time clothing model for a while in an Arab country. I am Arab, but I don't look like it apparently. Anyways, we had to walk around this convention and show the clothes, wearing heels on a carpet floor. I was young, around 16. I didn't know how to walk really well in heels yet and the carpet floors didn't help either. The women there didn't know I spoke Arabic and started making fun of how I'm walking. I went up to them and asked them where the bathroom was in Arabic. They looked so surprised and embarrassed at the same time. It was lovely. Sometimes not being aggressive is the best comeback. I used to work as a dealer in a casino where our biggest richest clients were Chinese. I don't look Chinese, but I could understand and speak it. Sitting down on my table, they thought it was safe to discuss techniques to be sneaky behind my back, and also talk about me a little. I'm a young girl so I got some creepy remarks. They never understood how they never got away with things as I never made any indication I understood them. How would you stop them from doing their sneaky things? Do you have specific examples? Just curious, not doubtful. I don't know what kind of dealer she is, but if it's blackjack and they were counting cards, the casino would likely ban them for style of play. If they were playing poker, I'd be surprised they were allowed to speak Chinese at the poker table. Many casinos require players to only speak English to avoid cheating. Same reason most places won't let you use a cell phone at the table. Teacher here had a student with serious issues concerning authority. Essentially, he would cut out nearly anyone who tried to tell him what to do with every name in the book. One day, he thought he'd get creative and starting swearing in Spanish to avoid consequences and called me basically the equivalent of a wrinkly ballsack. Long story short, I would pay to have a picture of his face when I replied, in fluent Spanish, that he was going to call his mother and repeat what he had just said. I went on a short trip to Salzburg, Austria. I'm from Hungary. This winter, shortly before Christmas, I was walking through a crowded area in the Christmas market, everyone speaking in German, when I heard the guy right next to me yell, "Who put their hands in my ass?" in Hungarian quite loudly. I started to laugh as loud as I can and the guy's face was all red. He was so embarrassed. Well, who was the person who put their hands in that guy's ass? By the way, thanks for the levity in a thread full of stories about people being itty. So I was living in Barcelona dating a Swedish girl about 10 years ago, and I got really into studying Swedish and watching Swedish films and learning vocabulary and stuff. So we went on vacation to Portugal with her roommate over the summer, and we're on the beach. I'm listening to a conversation that they're having between themselves, and honestly not understanding much of it. But then, in this moment of pure clarity, I heard my girlfriend say, "Sometimes I look at him and I just think, why? Oh man." I confronted her about it, and I've never seen someone turn so red in my life. Yo, why did she say that? Because apparently everyone needs to know this. She was a really rich girl from STHLM, trying hard, and failing, to be less boring by coming to live in Barcelona. I was 22 and completely insane. Dreadlocks, going out every night and doing speed, drinking. MD. Coke. Waking up a lot of the time next to other girls. Half of the time I would look at myself in the mirror and think why. Which is to say, I wasn't really surprised that she had said it. I was much more surprised that I had understood it. I look mixed. I'm full Cambodian, but I've been confused with being mixed with black. When I was 7 I went with my mum to her doctor in Long Beach, which is mainly Cambodian populated in that area. My mum went inside her doctor's office, leaving me in the waiting room. As soon as the office door closed, these two old Cambodian ladies start talking it in Khmer saying how she's a single mum, she's not, and how she had a black baby, me, and that's such a shame BC she made my life miserable. They also said my skin color was ugly and I had a black nose, etc. I just sat quietly, looking at them until one realized, oh snap, maybe she understands Khmer, and asks me, hey, do you know your dad? And I just replied back in our language, yeah, and he's at home waiting for us. And we have the same skin color, so that means yours is ugly too. Both of their faces dropped. It was great, and they had the audacity to tell my mum that I was rude when she came out. What did your mum say? She asked me why and I told her they were saying mean things. All she said was okay and we left. I knew she was upset, but it's not okay to disrespect elders in our culture, and it's more of a everyone knows everyone type of community. That's why she doesn't say anything. I wasn't the bilingual one, but my bilingual friend was really the star of the show. I am a straight guy and my bilingual friend is gay. We were in college for summer school 20 plus years ago, and everyone taking classes stayed in the same old dormitory. It was a school with a lot of international students who had even greater representation in the summer, because they typically didn't fly home for just 3 months. My friend had a computer, I didn't, so he told me I could go into his room anytime and use it if he didn't need it at the time. My friend was white, but had spent a number of his childhood years in Japan and spoke Japanese like a native. We were talking and walking down the hall toward his room, and 2 Japanese exchange students began talking to one another in Japanese, looking at us and snickering. My friend looks over and starts dressing them down in absolute perfect Japanese, and they are horrifically embarrassed. They began profusely apologizing and hurriedly walking away. I turned to my buddy, what did they say? They were making some disparaging remarks about your ex-life, so I told them they were wrong and not to be rude, he said. Then he quipped, they were making some disparaging remarks about my ex-life, too, but those were all true. They were making some disparaging remarks about my ex-life, too, but those were all true. Your friend seems like an absolutely wonderful person. This happened in HS. My homeroom teacher sent me to the principal's office with some paperwork that was requested. As I walk in, I see this one guy in the principal's office. Tall black dude. We'll call him Mr. J, and he is speaking fluent Spanish with the Spanish teacher. I drop off the papers with the secretary and go back to class. It's almost end of day and I'm in my English class and we have a substitute teacher. Mr. J. Well, kids being kids, no one is listening to him, and one of my classmates, Millie, who's sitting on the other side of the room from me, starts bad-mouthing him in Spanish to 3 other girls. I kept telling her to shut up, but she wouldn't listen and just went on and on. He heard me try to warn her and motioned for me to stop, so I stopped. And that's when he began talking back to her in Spanish. I didn't say a thing, and the whole class died laughing. Millie then began to yell at me for not warning her, and Mr. J told her, she tried to warn you, but you didn't listen. She and the other girls got detention for about a week. It's a reverse of this actually. I didn't know they spoke my language. I asked my mum in Vietnamese if I could have the Mexican ice cream near checkout, that it is the best thing ever, and was begging her since she thought I had too many sweets. This older white man turns around and says it's pretty good ice cream in our language. Me and my mum blankly stared at him in awe. It was the first time I've ever heard a white man speak Vietnamese. It wasn't flawless, but I could understand him. It was actually pretty freaking great. He noticed our faces and was just like, yeah, my wife's family does the same. I'm fairly tattooed and I was working in retail, in a shoe shop. I was serving a very rude woman and her daughter. both of whom clearly thought they were better than me, and every time they asked for shoes they told me, in English, that I was very slow to fetch them and bad at my job. I was only on like my third shift. The atmosphere turned pretty sour, because obviously they were being rude and it annoyed me, and as I was boxing up the shoes they wanted, the mother turned and said to her daughter something like, "Don't ever get tattoos. This is the kind of person that has them. Working in retail with absolutely no brains and tattoos reflect that. Blah 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 in Italian." I simply replied, "Non sono d'accordo, ma grazie, I disagree, but thank you." She looked absolutely humiliated and quickly left. I have 2 German girls in my class and they usually talk German to each other. I figured out that one of them understood Dutch, since one of them laughed after I told a joke to another Dutchman, but they didn't figure out that I could understand German. I heard them gossip all the time about people in our year. In the beginning of this year I got assigned to a group with them and they were talking about a teaching being a dumbass, so I joined in. They were shocked at first, but we had a good laugh afterwards. We're good friends now. Do you know of a story like this? Leave it in the comments below. If you're new here, subscribe for more. We post the best Reddit videos daily. Thanks for watching.